The battle had ended 3 hours ago, but Commander Velra still felt the tremors running through her exoskeleton. Her ship, the Dawn's Edge, hung dead in space, life support failing, hull breached in 17 places. Of her crew of 43, only she remained conscious in the command deck, pinned beneath a collapsed support beam that had crushed her primary breathing apparatus. The human vessel had appeared without warning, emerging from a junk point that shouldn't have existed according to every star chart in the known galaxy. Velra had watched through failing vision as the smaller craft maneuvered alongside her dying ship, magnetic clamps securing it to the outer hull. She had tried to send a distress signal, but her communication array was among the many systems that had gone dark. When the airlock breach alarm sounded, Velra assumed she would die. Her species, the Korthai, required atmospheric pressure twice that of standard galactic environments and a gas mixture that would prove toxic to most oxygen breathers. The armor she wore was designed to maintain that pressure, to filter and recycle her breathing supply for up to 6 planetary rotations. But the collapse had damaged the intake valves, and she could feel the suit slowly suffocating her. The human who stepped through the emergency hatch was smaller than she expected. Velra had heard stories of humanity's recent arrival in galactic space, tales of their reckless bravery and impossible resilience, but she had never encountered one personally. The creature stood perhaps 3/4 her height, wearing a simple pressure suit that seemed inadequate for deep space operations. "Help me," Velra managed to transmit through her suit's external speakers, though each word cost her precious air. "The armor, I cannot breathe." The human approached without hesitation, scanning her with a handheld device that projected holographic readouts Velra couldn't interpret. Through her faceplate, she could see the human's face, those strange forward-facing eyes moving rapidly as they assessed the situation. The human's lips moved, and a translation came through her suit's damaged receivers. "Your pressure requirements are extreme," the human said. His voice carried a tone Velra recognized as concern. "If I remove your armor in this environment, you'll experience rapid decompression. Your internal organs will rupture within seconds." "Then I die either way," Velra responded, feeling the darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. "At least make it quick." The human shook his head, a gesture Velra understood meant negation. "No, there's another option, but you're not going to like it." Before Velra could respond, the human was moving with startling speed. He pulled equipment from the pack on his back, assembling what appeared to be a portable atmospheric processor. His hands worked with practiced efficiency, connecting tubes and calibrating settings on a control panel that flickered to life. "I can't replicate your exact atmospheric needs, not here, not now," the human explained as he worked. "But I can create a temporary environment that will keep you stable long enough to get you to my ship. The problem is the pressure differential. Your armor is the only thing preventing your body from expanding catastrophically in this low-pressure environment." Velra felt confusion mixing with her oxygen deprivation. "Then how?" "I'm going to flood this entire section with a high-pressure gel," the human interrupted. "It will provide external pressure to support your body while I carefully remove the damaged sections of your armor and replace them with emergency patches. The gel will also serve as a breathing medium once I introduce your required gases into it." The idea seemed impossible. Velra had never heard of such a procedure, and the thought of breathing liquid terrified her on a primal level. "That will kill me," she protested weakly. "It might," the human admitted, his hands never stopping their work. "But staying in that armor definitely will. Your oxygen levels are critical, and the carbon dioxide buildup is approaching toxic levels. You have maybe 10 minutes before you lose consciousness permanently." Velra watched as the human placed the atmospheric processor near her head and began spraying a thick, translucent gel around her body. The substance expanded rapidly, filling the space around her, hardening slightly as it made contact with the air, but maintaining a viscous quality where it touched her armor. "My name is Marcus," the human said as he worked. "I'm a rescue specialist with the Terran Deep Space Recovery Course. I've performed this procedure twice before, both times successfully. I need you to trust me." Trust. Such a simple concept, yet Velra found herself clinging to it as the human continued his preparations. She had no choice, really. Death was certain if she did nothing, merely probable if she allowed this human to attempt his mad procedure. "Do it," she managed to say. Marcus nodded and activated the atmospheric processor. The gel around Velra began to shift, becoming more fluid, and she felt the temperature rising slightly as gases were pumped into the substance. The human produced a cutting tool from his kit and approached her helmet. "This is going to feel very wrong," Marcus warned. "Every instinct you have will tell you that you're drowning. You need to fight those instincts. Your lungs can process oxygen from the gel, just as they would from gas, but your brain doesn't know that yet. The first breath will be the hardest." Velra's heart hammered in her chest as Marcus began cutting through the damaged seals of her helmet. She felt the pressure change immediately, felt the gel beginning to seep into the gaps. Then the faceplate came away, and the gel rushed in. Panic seized her. The substance filled her mouth, her nasal passages, flooding into her lungs with a sensation like drowning. Velra tried to scream, tried to thrash, but Marcus was there, his gloved hands on either side of her head, his eyes locked on hers through his own visor. "Breathe," he commanded, his voice somehow cutting through her panic. "Your body knows what to do. Let it work." Velra's lungs spasmed, trying to expel the foreign substance, but there was nowhere for it to go. In desperation, her body attempted to draw in air, and the gel flowed into her lungs. To her shock, she felt oxygen transferring into her bloodstream. It wasn't like breathing air. The sensation was heavier, more deliberate, but it worked. The darkness receded slightly. "Good," Marcus said, and she could hear relief in his voice. "Keep breathing. I'm going to remove the rest of the armor now." For the next hour, Velra existed in a nightmare state of semi-consciousness as the human carefully cut away her damaged armor, piece by piece. Each time he removed a section, he immediately covered the exposed area with a flexible emergency pressure suit, maintaining the integrity of the gel cocoon around her. He worked with a precision that spoke of extensive training, never hesitating, never making a mistake that could prove fatal. When he finally freed her from the collapsed beam, Velra felt tears mixing with the gel around her eyes. The human had crafted a complete secondary environment around her body, a portable high-pressure chamber that allowed her to exist in the low-pressure section of her ship. Marcus attached a small propulsion unit to the gel cocoon and began guiding her toward his ship. "My medical bay can create a proper atmosphere for you," he explained. "We'll keep you in the gel until we get there. Once you're stable, we can begin proper treatment for your injuries." Velra tried to speak, but communication through the gel proved difficult. Instead, she focused on the rhythmic process of breathing the strange substance, trusting that this human knew what he was doing. The transfer to Marcus's ship took another 30 minutes. Once inside his medical bay, Velra was lowered into a chamber that the human quickly pressurized to her species' requirements. Only then did he begin the careful process of removing the gel, flushing it from her lungs with warm gases that felt like heaven after the heavy liquid. When Velra finally took her first breath of proper atmosphere in hours, she wept openly. Marcus stood nearby, monitoring readouts on multiple screens, ensuring her transition was proceeding safely. "Why?" Velra asked when she could finally speak clearly. "Why risk yourself for an unknown alien? You could have left me to die. No one would have known." Marcus turned to look at her, and Velra saw something in his expression that she would come to recognize as quintessentially human. A mixture of determination and compassion that seemed to define their species. "Because you asked for help," Marcus replied simply. "And because leaving someone to die when I have the ability to save them isn't something I can do. It's not about risk or reward or politics. It's about being human." Velra would spend the next 3 weeks aboard Marcus's ship as he transported her to the nearest Korthai medical facility. During that time, she learned much about humanity and their strange obsession with preserving life, even at great personal cost. She learned that Marcus had designed the gel-breathing procedure himself after losing a patient he couldn't save, spending years researching and developing a method that could work across different species. When they finally reached the medical station, and Velra prepared to depart, she clasped Marcus's hand in the human gesture of farewell she had learned. "The galaxy speaks of humanity's capacity for violence," Velra said, "but they should speak more of your capacity for mercy." Marcus smiled. "Give them time. We're still new here. Eventually, they'll learn that humans are capable of both." As Velra watched the human's ship depart, she understood that the galaxy had indeed changed with